And then for the intro. And we're live. Stratty, how you doing?
Doing great, man. How are you, Caleb?
I'm doing good. Let me just. There we go. I have my other stream going on my TV there, and I just heard all the music again. Okay, I think we're good. So today we're gonna be talking about Against the Left, Rothbardian Libertarianism. Fucking fantastic book.
Yes.
Just absolutely incredible. So, how did you first hear about this book?
So I had already been reading Lou Rockwell at the time, and I went to what was it? Oh, the Ron Paul Symposium in Lake Jackson in 2019, and that's actually where this book was first sold. And so I got one of the first copies
Nice.
that was on sale that day, and that was pretty cool. But I was shocked. I was happy to see just the new Lou Rockwell book.
Yeah, it's. This was my first Lou Rockwell book. The moment I finished it, I got Fascism and Capitalism and Against the what was it? This one here.
Against the State.
No, Left, Right, and the State.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, I have been pulling through articles, lectures, videos, podcasts, anything I can find. I just blown away. Absolutely incredible person.
No, he's my favorite person in the liberty movement by far.
It's easy to see why.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of following going on the whole paleo route and just reading, like paleo right-wing libertarianism is just it's so much better. And in fact, I was in the car the other day and I had this book in my next to me because I was reading it at the gym, and I got into a Twitter debate and I just opened the book, found a page, and like boom, that's my argument right there. Screenshot, post. Like that's happened twice now. The book is just that good.
Yeah, that's one thing this book is good for. And well, I mean, what do you want to start off talking about first with the book?
Let's start with this. I think everyone only should read this book, but anyone who is at all right wing, if you're a conservative, a Trump guy, whatever you are, this has the answers and arguments for what the left wants to do and how to answer the arguments.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, yeah, what you said exactly. It doesn't matter what your political stance is. If you're weary of the left in any sort of way, this is the perfect book to read, because I know on the front of the cover it says Rothbardian libertarianism. And a lot of the stuff in there concerns things like private property and such. But I feel like anyone, apolitical people even, could read this and get a sense for how crazy the left is.
I was in the work truck with my dad the other day. My phone auto-connected and started playing the audiobook. He said, "Leave it on. I want to hear this." He's dying of laughter. The chapters on public schools and the feminism and gay people and women in the army. He was like, "Who is this guy? Who's Rothbard? Who's Lou Rockwell? I love these people." I'm like, "Yes, it's gonna be some audiobooks now."
Hell yeah!
But
so, do you want to go into the chapters?
Let's go chapter by chapter.
Cool. I'm ready. If you are.
First chapter: Assault on the Family. This like I was trying to write down my favorite lines, and I ended up just writing down page numbers.
Yeah.
It's just like from page 37 to the end of the chapter. It's just. Where's that line? Is it a line from Mises here? I should have bookmarked it.
Is it the all of libertarian political thought follows from the non-aggression principle line?
I think it might be that one. Do you have that one?
Yeah. Do you want me to read it out loud?
Go ahead. Yeah.
All of libertarian political thought follows from the non-aggression principle, that no one, including the government, can aggress against someone else's person or property. Since according to libertarian theory, there should be no government property, since it is all derived from coercion, how does any principle whatever of government property use follow from libertarian theory? The answer is it doesn't. On the question of what to do about government property, libertarians, apart from calling for privatization, are set adrift, in short, with nothing but their common sense and their attunement to the real world, of which libertarians have always been in notoriously short supply.
I don't know. Over the past 2 days, I have been in multiple Twitter arguments about state and egalitarianism. What does the state do here about gay marriage? There's all these kind of debates, and I'm just like, the lack of common sense with some of these people. Rothbard spells that right there.
Yeah,
I think I
go ahead.
good. No, I basically took a photo of it. And I saved it to my phone because I use it so much now in arguments with people. I just saved a photo of the article, the paragraph. Like, no, just read this. Here you go. I don't need to make an argument. Rothbard did for me.
It is a pretty good summary of the libertarian viewpoint.
Yeah. What was it? I think it was on page 38.
78?
No, not 38, 37.
37.
Where was it? Yeah, one of my favorite paragraphs, one of my favorite lines. Finally, libertarianism will fall back on their standard argument that while all these tricksters do apply to private organizations and that rights do not apply to such organizations, egalitarian rights do apply to such governmental outfits as the military. But as I have written the case on whether someone has the right to think of a public library, just because it's public, this sort of nihilism has to be abandoned in favor of privatization of everything. But sort of that glorious day, existing government services should be operated as efficiently as possible. A lot of people do not like that. From my understanding, libertarian people currently, that line would not be celebrated as it should be.
Well, a lot of people are just nitpicky about property rights because, as we'll talk about later on when we get into the civil rights chapter, property rights imply the right for the property owner to do countless things. However, I think if the more we emphasize that, the property owner can't just kill someone on their property, they can't just do whatever they want, they can't hurt someone else, I think if we stress that more, maybe we could hit the common person over the head a lot easier with our arguments concerning property rights.
Absolutely. I got into a Twitter debate recently about this. Actually, it was is it tyrannical to force prostitutes not to turn tricks in your neighborhood? And it's like, this is why zoning laws are important, and actually zoning laws are an extension of property rights, and red light districts are a perfectly reasonable thing in libertarianism.
Yeah.
And half people were like, yes. Other half was like, no, that's tyranny. I should be able to turn tricks in your neighborhood out of a kid's cock. It's like, no, you can't.
Yeah. It's like, one of the things that got me really into property rights was actually Hoppe talking about homeowners associations and the covenants and all that. And I forgot what it was, but a while back there was an issue going around. I think it was here in Texas. I could be wrong, but it was someone with it was a bus full of kids, picking them up from school and taking them home. But every day when this bus would come and go, a man would stand in his lawn naked. And, his argument was, oh, it's my property. I can stand here and do whatever I want. Oh, sure. But I don't know if the rest of the neighborhood's going to like that. So, I mean, if you want to get into that, we can talk about the libertarian solutions to problems like that. I'm all for
all I can think of is the line from King of the Hill, like talking to what was his name? Dale, like, your fly's down. It's my yard.
Yeah. It's a great show.
It is one of the best shows. Yeah, no, really, property rights are fantastic, but the zoning laws, I think, are a perfect extension of property rights, and that the fact that you could what's the word called? Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on the word right now. What is it? So you know how you can't violently accost people with sound, like noise pollution. That's it.
Yes.
Noise pollution. I think like sight pollution qualifies as a similar object. You can't walk around naked because it's not harming people, but you violently accosting people's senses in your neighborhood.
Yeah,
I think that is a perfectly reasonable extension of property rights.
Yeah, and it's all about contracts too.
So I think it was page 39. I had something I wanted to say about that. Hold on.
Got you. Let me go to that.
Page 39. I mean, really, there's so much on every page. You could do a live reading, and it'd just be fantastic. Where was it? Yes, the argument of feminism. Feminists often respond to the criticism of this sort Rothbard gives by saying, "You just don't get it." Rothbard had a devastating answer. There are two successful and powerful rebuttals to be made today. You just don't get it, swords. One is, no, ladies, you don't get it. You don't get the crucial distinction between harmless verbal flirting, verbal threats of job loss and demanding sexual favors, and physical assault. We don't get that continuum ceases because that ceases evil and wrong, and reasons we have just outlined. The second rebuttal is to turn to the "you just don't get it" season on its head. Look, ladies, women, viragos, or what you were, you seem to be claiming that since we are men, we can't possibly get that only women can reach this magic realm of understanding. You are engaging in the fallacy of what Ludwig von Mises called polylogism, but let's assume for the sake of argument that you are right in this case. Why do you keep talking? If men and women are doomed to see this issue totally different, then it's hopeless to try to convince us. Therefore, why don't you just shut up? But of course, women don't want to shut up because that is the whole point of this. You don't not get it. Just not only funny, but completely like a solid answer and rebuttal to the "you just don't get it" argument.
And that's one thing I enjoy about Rothbard specifically is he's funny. It's you can laugh while learning. But you know, this book, in my opinion, as a whole, is a great primer. But just that first chapter on the assault on the family, man, it opens your eyes up to a whole lot of stuff that is going on. And he uses, he uses plenty of examples. I mean, most of that chapter actually is quotes from Rothbard and Mises, but they all perfectly illustrate how, the left it is anti-family. And it happens in many ways, not just attacking the family, but there's nothing wrong with a woman going out and working, but it's better for a woman to be home and raising the children. And that's the way things are meant to be. And that's the most healthy households, is when the man's the breadwinner and the mom is a mom at the house. And now it's funny because that virtue is being looked down upon, because look at society today. We celebrate women for not being moms and not staying home and not raising their kids. And, we should celebrate women for what they do, but in my opinion, we should also shame them for not being as good as mothers as they used to be. And that virtue is completely gone, because if we do that, then we're sexist. Or
I have no problem in shaming a woman if she's trying to do if a woman is a mother. Like, there's a question on a political compass test, and it's should mothers make the household their priority over their job? And the question said, if should women make it the house? If they're not a mother, then I'm fine with that. But the moment you are a mother, your rights become secondary to the rights of the infant.
Yeah, and I mean the same goes for men. I mean, using an example that I came across recently, I was watching this live stream with I forget the fellow's name, but he buys a bunch of rare books, and he always talks about in his live streams that he's poor and he can't pay for his kids' meals and stuff. And so the guy interviewing him just goes, "Well, then why do you keep buying all these rare books?" And the dude's stumped. And we see a lot of that too. We see a lot of selfish men these days. They spend money on their habits rather than their children or their wife, or put money into their family and their children's future. And that, my generation, we were, your generation as well, we were hit by that. Like we were hit over the head hard with that kind of reality. And I don't want that for generations to come. So I think it's important that we realize that the left is doing these things and we work against it now, because it's a big issue now. And imagine if it gets worse, how much of a big issue will be later on.
And there's something to be said about I can't remember who said it, but like, men have a double-edged sword where it's like they show their love for the family by being away from the family working. And so they have a weird situation where it's like, they show love for the family, but by providing for the family, you have to not be at home. What's nowadays, given remote work, that's kind of going away and changing. I really think remote work can be better for families because people can be home. I think it's remote work in most schools. Like, I was homeschooled and my dad worked 5 minutes from where I lived. He was home for every meal. That was a much better family environment, I think, than people who, I have friends who never see their parents,
Yeah. And see, I went to, I had a stay at home mom, and I'm very thankful for that. But, my dad didn't have to work all the time, or he worked very close to home. So I saw him all the time. So I'm very thankful for that. But fortunately, I went to public school and I'm very traumatized by that. But no, I mean, is there anything else we're missing that they hit on in that chapter? I'm trying to think.
Let me look through it real quick and see if there's anything we wanted to add on. I would say Mises' point about public schools separating the kids from the family is a very important thing. And So the line about separation of parents of kids from their parents breed homosexuality and neurosis may sound very un-PC, but then you look at the amount of kids coming out of high school and middle school with pansexual and trans ideology. The effect of what he's saying is pretty true.
I mean, yeah, you're exactly right. And what's funny is this was illustrated by Orwell in his book 1984.
Mm.
I can't remember exactly everything he said, but I know he makes a great point to talk about how the children, they go to the school that's run by the state and they become children of the state and they rat on their parents.
Mm.
And we see things like that. I remember when January 6th happened, there was family members ratting on other family members, and they were conditioned to do those kinds of things, thinking it was their duty because of public school.
I think it
And
was
yeah, go ahead.
Nebraska. I think Nebraska, one of the states was Republican, had the governor. He had the public school teachers ask the kids how many people were over Thanksgiving dinner to figure out who broke the COVID lockdown Thanksgiving rules. Like they were literally having teachers interview kids try to rat out their parents.
Yeah,
What kind
that's
of
disgusting.
these are bad people. I mean,
Yeah.
So he had an R next to his name, but he's still a bad, fucking evil person.
That is evil. And another thing, yeah, like talking about the trans ideology and all that. A reason many kids these days have no idea or respect for their faith, or they don't try to find a faith to stick to, or they don't love their heritage or what they come from, or they don't love who they are or the land that they live on. A lot of that is because of school. School makes you feel guilty about yourself and the shit that they teach you, especially like in history class. Hell, I remember growing up and I had ancestors that fought for the South and for the North. So I had respect for both sides, but going through middle school and high school, it was like the public education system beat that respect for my Southern ancestors out of me. And I didn't gain that back until reading on my own about the Confederacy and such.
Yeah. And
now I'm very proud of those roots. And there's nothing wrong with me saying that, but public school makes kids want to think there is something wrong.
Yeah.
And that to me is so disgusting and tragic, because that's why so many children these days grow up and start having identity crisis.
Oh yeah.
Like all these kids that become trans, they're having identity crisis. They're confused. That's not normal, and it shouldn't be normalized.
I can't remember who said it, but it's like too many parents are saving up money to send their kids to school so they can come back and hate them.
Yep. Yeah,
like,
I know what line you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like the critical race theory, even though it's not heavily taught everywhere, it's taught in enough places, and you see the effects of all these kids being told your heritage, everything about you is terrible. Is it any more surprise that there are a split among Gen Z people that half of them are like hard lefty trans and half are hardcore right wing like reactionary racist types? It's like it's not surprising that you're gonna have this massive split among the population when you just tell them every day for 10 hours a day how much you suck.
Well, it's reactionaryism, and there's a reason reactionaryism's on the rise, and that's because they're forcing us to have a reaction.
Yeah. We've gone on for 18 minutes about one chapter. We should probably get to the next one.
Cool. And that one is
I think we're on
civil rights. Yeah.
There was so much I wanted to bookmark. I didn't have time to like bookmark all of it. But I will say some of the points about like discrimination, about how it's like you have to be anyone can walk in and sue a business now for discrimination. Yeah. You have to be on guard of who your customers are, and then it makes it a hyper race sensitive instead of colorblindness. Like Watsball died at like what 95.
Yes.
And so he wrote all the stuff like 90s or something, 80s, 90s. Fucking way ahead of his time.
You're 100% right. And I want to make a comment about what you said there. Yeah, I mean, if it was a truly free market in the culture that we have today, I think most business owners would be colorblind, depending on the areas they're in. And what's sad about that is because of these federal laws, you're exactly right. And it doesn't matter where you have a store or restaurant or whatever. You are kind of racially profiling every single one of your customers, or even profiling them about disabilities, religion, things like
Mhm.
that, because you have to really play your cards safe these days as a
Yeah.
business owner. And not that business owners don't already have to play their cards safe. I mean, they would in a free market. It's all about competition. But in this sense, they're kind of having to cover their ass for things out of their control and
Yeah.
kind of responsibilities put onto them that shouldn't exist in the first place. That
Mm,
should never even be thought of as their responsibility.
mm. I saw this video a while ago. It was of a liquor store, and they had put up signs like "Careful, you're on camera," but they only
Yeah,
put it on
the
certain. They only
Hennessy.
put it, yeah, and I was just like, "Oh, that's one funny and terrible, but also that store's gonna get sued for that's like a that's gotta
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
like I just imagine a court case like they assume oh, and it, like I don't know, it was such a weird like so weird look. You look at it, you're like that's just a so weird like multiple angles thing. Like, I just
Yeah, no, I
it's so
watched I
weird.
saw that video a couple nights ago, and I had to rewatch it a couple times before I got it, but once I got it, I died with laughter.
Yeah, it was like oh wow. Um, I will say Lou Walker is kind of older, and it's hard for me to it was hard for me to read the all the parts about age discrimination. Now this old man yells at Sky,
Yeah.
but but again he's right. Like I know a lot of Lou Walker's writing can be read as a boomer yelling at the sky, but
Oh, yeah.
he's always right, and it kind of makes it funny.
Yeah, no, he is a total boomer, but and I that makes me appreciate his writing more. Like I always tell my girlfriend, it's like another grandpa. Him and
Yeah.
Ron Paul are like just two other grandpas I have.
Oh man, I tell you, um, going like I hit a lecture on Aquinas and like the scholastics because he's Catholic and I'm Catholic, and so his lecture on that and stuff like this very. I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's a lot of people at the Mises Institute who are Catholic.
Yes.
It's interesting. It's a weird mix of like Reason is all atheist. Most of them are atheists. Mises Institute is Catholic, and then like the Libertarian Christian Institute, other pieces are more Protestant. And I don't know, this is something I noticed a while ago. And I'm trying to figure out why that is, but I think it has something to do with like the Catholics have a very high focus on education and institutions of university they help create,
And
which
also
leads to a lot of
morals.
scholars. Yeah, that too.
Because I find a lot of religious people tend to like libertarianism because it's what's out of like all the ideologies, it's the best one. It's the most moral one because, it allows people to truly be themselves and not hurt one another. And I think religious people appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you got your girlfriend here on the chat.
Yeah, that's my girlfriend. Hey, Anna.
Nice, nice.
Love you, babe.
Do you have? I really have nothing else to add to the civil rights chapter. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Let's,
can't
I
remember
want
said
to
it
talk about
recently.
a few things on that.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. You can make your first point. I'll just
I
piggyback
was
off
gonna say,
yours.
something I think was so Bishop said recently. It's like civil rights. People keep trying to argue about what we should do in a civil rights society. Was property rights. Like we live in a property rights. We don't live in a property rights society, and so trying to apply property rights to civil rights societies are very. You get in these weird predicaments, and that's something I think that more libertarians understand. We are so far away from our libertarian society that we're philosophizing midstream.
Yeah.
A lot of these hypotheticals.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking on that first, I will say this. I used to be I still am, I still consider myself an anarchist, but I used to be hardcore anarchist. And not that that's bad, but I've definitely changed my views on some things recently because I took to heart what Tho Bishop was saying, and he's exactly right. It's good to go gung ho all in with your beliefs and with everything, in my opinion, but you have to know when to hit the brakes at certain points. You have to know when to take turns at certain points. You have to know, just when to, speaking for libertarians specifically, libertarians need to learn how to act normal around some types of people because
Yes.
I mean, I love them. I agree with libertarians on most things, but holy crap, man. I mean, it's hard to take these people seriously. I mean,
Oh,
that's why I left the Libertarian Party. It's ridiculous. I can't, if I can't take these people seriously, I don't want to be a part of them. I don't want to be
dude.
associated with them. And I can't blame the average person for not even giving libertarianism a second thought. I mean, look at the people who are primarily believe in it.
Dude, I got into a debate with Stefan Kinsella yesterday
I
or the other
saw.
day. Oh my god, that entire thread was just an example of people like libertarians not understanding the everyday person. Like, he can agree if he disagrees with me on he wants about the idea of having a porn star preach liberty. That's whatever, but does not understand that's going to turn off a certain number of people. And it's like, oh, it's not the message doesn't matter. It's all about the ideas in this message. It's not the messenger. I'm like, that's so autistic.
Yeah. And I kind of saw what you were saying. Like I was kind of like, I don't, you weren't cussing the lady
No.
for liking liberty. You just were saying, hey, maybe not the best idea to make a porn star our spokesperson at
Yeah.
this time. And you're exactly right. I mean, when has a porn star ever been the spokesperson for the Republicans or Democrats?
Well, that's Brandy Love, and she was going to be the conservative spokesperson. They
Yeah,
kicked
she
her out of the
was,
party.
but now she's with us, and I'm like,
And like, do we really
what?
want the washout? I don't.
Like,
I
okay,
didn't
we'll
get it.
take you, but I don't want you being on our Mount Rushmore.
Dude, when Stefan Kinsella asked me, like, so was the drug addicts be Keynesians or statists? It's like, no, Stefan, I want them not to be drug addicts.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
it's going to
like,
be controversial.
well, and like you just reminded me of something a good friend once told me. Also, he was also libertarian, and we were talking about this, and he's like, just because I support legalizing prostitution doesn't mean I want my little sister to be a prostitute.
Yes.
And just because I support legalizing all drugs doesn't mean I want you, Caleb, after we're done recording, to go shoot up some heroin. I
I mean,
would, I would,
I was going to, but I'll
yeah. Well, I
cut
hope
off
you
later.
don't. I hope you choose not to. But I think that is lost on a lot of libertarians, a lot of them, because
Libertines.
I think a lot of them just get stuck inside their own heads, and they
Mhm.
think, oh, I'm able to see the world perfectly. I'm able to think of everything so clearly now that I have this ideology in my head. So now I'm going to go and and they don't even think of it like this, but they do what the left does. They do what the neocons do, and that's shove it down everyone's throat. And people
Mhm.
don't like that. Um, so yeah, libertarians, Tho Bishop's right. His view is completely right, in my opinion. They should take a step back and they should act normal and play within the bounds that they have. And then once they get their chance, break out of those bounds, and we'll get to where we want to be.
Yeah. Like, so Bishop is rarely wrong,
Yeah,
honestly.
no,
Like, every time I see him tweet, I'm like, yeah.
yeah, I don't agree with all his Trump stuff, but I'm with you. I mean, that's why he's probably my favorite person to keep up with now from the Mises Institute. But
Same.
going back to the civil rights things, one thing that I found crazy was let me see if I can pull it up real quick, but it was talking about how all the money and like needless transactions with the state that
Yeah.
businesses have to do,
What was
losing
that?
money on it every time. Yeah, I'll read it out loud. Consider the government reports that job discrimination complaints against private employers increased 4% in 2002 to a total of 84,442, the highest level in 7 years. Those filing complaints took in 310.5 million in monetary benefits. The main complaint involves race, followed by sex, but the big increase came with allegations involving religion, age, and national origin. The trend represents a huge diversion from the main goal of restoring economic growth. And I love that because a lot of these progressives with their economic propositions and stuff and the social programs they want to put in, they claim they want to make society run better. To me, all this does is it raises levels of distrust. It makes people more weary of each other, so that makes society then more divided naturally. And then yeah, I mean, where's this money going? It's I don't care how much money the government takes from us in taxes, none of it will ever be used to help us. And it really all it is the government making more excuses for themselves to intervene in people's lives and get more money for themselves. And that's all this is to me. These are all just a bunch of justifications for the government to grow their power. And Rothbard and Rockwell make that point as well in that chapter. And it's just ridiculous. And it's kind of sad because, you know, love him for what he was good for, hate him for what he wasn't. But Martin Luther King, I disagree with him on a lot, but his overall message I do agree with. But what was lost in that was the whole making private business owners force integration, and then the federal government forced integration. And what did that cause? Division, distrust still, because it was being forced upon us and none of it was voluntary. And now we're kind of we're seeing those issues just more and more and more, and it all stems from there, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you heard Thaddeus Russell talk about Martin Luther King at all?
No, sir. No, I haven't.
Oh, it's he found some Martin Luther King quotes and basically wrote a dissertation about Martin Luther King was not a good cause for civil rights. Because Martin Luther King told his constituents, "Hey, be less black. Show up to work on time, be less black, and then we become equal to the white man." He was basically just trying to destroy black culture to gain equality. And it was
he cheated on his wife countless times, and he was a communist.
Yeah,
and
he had a few good speeches, but that's majority of the stuff I am not behind.
I mean, Letter from Birmingham Jail, that's a great piece of writing, especially I think for libertarians to read, and his overall message of us all getting along, that's great too. But if I was going to teach my children about that time in history and I was going to find a figure for them to look up to, I'd be pointing to Malcolm X way before I'd be pointing to MLK.
Yeah, definitely. What was I going to add? I think I wanted to add to the civil rights one. What was it? Oh, there's a whole point here about Richard Epstein's book and Biden reacting to it, and it was kind of funny to hear someone write about Biden from before Biden was just like president and vice president. I didn't write it down, sadly. I couldn't find it.
You're good, man. I was just curious because I read this a long time ago. So
yeah, I can't find it again. But I listened to the audiobook version today again, and it was like Biden was pissed off at the Richard Epstein person for writing about basically against egalitarianism and against equality.
That sounds like a Biden thing to do.
Yeah, it was. I gotta tell you, this book, and then egalitarianism has a revolt against nature, which I have right there on the shelf.
Yeah,
books every libertarian should read.
Yeah, and speaking more on the civil rights thing, I think it was in that chapter. Pretty 100% sure that Rockwell talks about, okay, well, what is equality? What is racism? And he makes a great point. He says, like, okay, if racism is concretely understood, why is it that we have so many debates about what is racist and what isn't racist, or why something's racist or how it's racist? And that's a really great point, because I had never thought of it like that either. I just used to always I always thought it was bullshit, but I never gave it much thought more than that. And then going on to equality, you mentioned egalitarianism as a revolt against nature. That's the Rothbard compilation, correct? There's a essay in there. For the life of me, I cannot remember what this essay is called. Go ahead, pull it out real quick. Go to the table of contents, and I'll tell you which essay it is.
Left, right, and the prospects for liberty. And how many of the states included in this one? Wow. Justice and property rights, war, peace in the state, the fallacy of the public sector, kid lib, the great women's liberation issue, setting it straight, conservatism, conservation in the free market, the Median Revolution, national liberation, anarcho-communism, the Spooner-Tucker doctrine, Mises, private libertarian, and freedom, equality, privatism, and division of labor.
That last one you just said.
All the way to the very end.
So that last essay, what is it called? Freedom, equality, primitivism, or
let me get back again.
Yeah, read it one more time.
Freedom, inequality, privatism, and the division of labor.
So that essay, that's all I could think about when I read, and I'm pretty sure actually Rockwell used some quotes from Rothbard from that essay in this book, but that's all I could think about. That essay is amazing, and it just points out, it illustrates greatly how this whole debate about equality is just stupid. There is no equality, none. every individual here is different. They have different skills, different attributes. They look different. They talk different, smell different even. And if we're going to equalize everyone, how? I mean,
That was it.
it's a ridiculous idea. It's a ridiculous thing to set out to do. And the reason why it's so ridiculous is because one, equality, talking about it and talking about racism appeals to people's emotions. When you can appeal to people's emotions,
Mm,
you got them hooked. They'll be your slave. And
mm,
especially whenever the government has as much power as it does. If they can appeal to people's emotions, oh boy, they're gonna really run with
mm,
it. Look at these lockdowns. They made everyone fear for their health and
mhm.
they ran with it.
And it's
So,
definitely good.
well, and like talking about equality, when we talk about it in such a way as like like, okay, this guy here, PJ, he's 5 foot, and then this guy, Tom is 7 foot. And why should we think of it as like, oh, poor Tom, he's 5 foot. Oh, no, Tom can go do something else. He can be a horse jockey if he's in sports, while the 7 foot guy can go be an NBA player. They have different skills that they're probably good for. But that 7 foot guy won't be a good horse jockey. Now, I mean, we can even apply it to race. Generally speaking, blacks have lower IQs and such, but Rockwell points out in this book that doesn't mean anything. Look at Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell is a
I literally,
smart,
I have a quote right here from
yeah,
Thomas Sowell. Nobody is equal to anybody. Even the same man is not equal to himself on different days.
yeah, exactly. So Thomas Sowell, a black man, understands this. He looks at the generalities about his own race, his own population, and says it's all bullshit
Hmm.
because he can. Generally these things might be true, but on an individual basis, no, I can be
Yeah,
whatever the fuck I want to be as long as I work towards it. And then
mhm,
what I'm naturally am, that's just what I naturally am. You can't help
absolutely.
that. And again, that goes back to the whole identity thing for me. People struggle to accept what they are, and this idea of equality then makes them feel better about
Mm.
themselves. And it's a false sense of
Well,
feeling
not
better.
not just that, but the idea that this is something that this book pointed out to me that really made me it's gonna stick with me. I think is the when you lay out impossible goals such as like systemic racism and systemic oppression, equality. These are unattainable goals that state can always point towards for why we got to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's gonna constantly go
Oh
to state
yeah.
because they're impossible to achieve.
Yeah, that's what I
Wait,
was gonna say. The reason why these ideas are so ridiculous is because they can appeal to emotion, and
mhm,
because they're so ridiculous, they can make up so many different cases of these ridiculous things happening,
mhm.
and then have a million different ridiculous justifications for what they're going to do about it, and it all results in the government having more power.
Yes, absolutely. It's again, people listening. The book is literally the PDF is free on Mises Institute. It's in the description.
And the
Read
book's
it.
less than $10 online.
Yeah, and it's only 148 pages.
And you
You could
might
knock
get
it out in an
lucky.
afternoon.
And you might get lucky and get a signed copy like myself.
Nice. The only book I have a signed copy of that I actually care about is I have an old Ethics of Liberty printing with signed by Rothbard.
Oh, dude, that's badass.
Yeah, I didn't even know I bought a signed copy. I bought it used on an online bookstore, opened it up, and I'm like, holy fuck.
Hell yeah, dude, that's
It was,
awesome.
yeah, it's my like there's a file that's like the one thing I'm grabbing. That and my dog.
Hell
It's
yeah.
like that's only it.
So do
Let's
you
move
want
on
to?
to the
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
cool.
look,
Go,
on to the
man.
next chapter. I normally only go pocket for about an hour, but I think I might go a bit longer because
No,
it's
no worries, man.
yeah, it's a short book. There's just so much here.
Yeah,
I mean, literally every page has something of value on it. I want to say there's something different from Rothbard books to Rothbard articles. His books
yeah,
are a lot more scholarly and like trying to tell a story, get the information apart. His articles and essays are funnier, informative, and they really well, he's writing gets just dismantled. Like
yeah. I mean,
it's over.
when I first got into him, I remember I didn't read one of his books for the longest time, and I just read a bunch of articles, and I was addicted. They're fun.
Yeah, I picked
Same,
up
same with
today.
Lou's articles. I'd even say.
I picked this one up today. The
Yeah,
Irreversible
I
Rothbard.
have that right over
Nice.
there.
I'm looking forward to reading it because That's it. These Washboard articles. I have a tweet I tweeted out a while ago, and it was about Mises' book Socialism. It's like, why are y'all even debating socialism? Mises solved that shit 100 years ago. That's
Yeah.
what I feel about Rothbard and anything he wrote. The debate's over. If you just read Rothbard, he got it right. It's over.
Yeah.
There's no point.
Another book I'll recommend if you really like his articles is Never a Dull Moment. It's all his articles from the 60s.
I have that one as an audiobook.
Yeah, it's
I'm
good.
going
I
to
love
it
that
now.
one.
He's great. Every
Yeah.
article of him, I'm just like, and something about reading an article from the time he was in, it's very interesting, like a window into that time and how he was writing about it. It's just, and his development of thought from from where he was to where he was in the 90s is just really fun to see. So the immigration chapter.
Yes.
I have a line here I liked a lot. Was it page 109? Where was it? Oh, here it is. Crime isn't the only reason people may legitimately wish to resist mass immigration. If 4 million Americans showed up in Singapore, that country's culture and society would change forever. And no, it is not true that libertarianism would in that case require people of Singapore to shrug their shoulders and say, well, it's nice having our society while it lasted, but all good things must come to an end.
Well, Caleb, you just stole my favorite line.
No,
you're good, man. That's cool. I'm glad you said it. If you don't mind, can I read out everything I marked down for my favorite?
Go ahead.
So I'll read it out. I'll read this part out loud, and then I'll talk about my thoughts on it with you. The fact is, politically enforced multiculturalism has an exceptionally poor track record. The 20th century afforded failure after predictable failure. Whether it's Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, the Soviet Union, or Pakistan and Bangladesh, or Malaysia and Singapore, or the countless places with ethnic and religious divides that have not yet been resolved to this day, the evidence suggests something rather different from the tale of universal brotherhood that is such a staple of leftist folklore. No doubt, some of the new arrivals will be perfectly decent people, despite the U.S. government's lack of interest in encouraging immigration among the skilled and capable, but some will not. The three great crime waves in U.S. history, which began in 1850, 1900, and 1960, coincided with periods of mass immigration. It's bad enough we have to be looted, spied on, and kicked around by the state. Should we also have to pay for the privilege of cultural destructionism? An outcome, and this is going off of what you just said, an outcome of the vast majority of the state's tax-paying subjects do not want and would actively prevent if they lived in a free society and were allowed to do so. The very cultures that the incoming migrants are said to enrich us with could not have developed had they been constantly bombarded with waves of immigration by peoples of radically different cultures. So the multicultural argument doesn't even make sense. Given the immigration patterns that the US and EU governments encourage, the long-term result will be to make the constituencies for continued government growth so large as to be practically unstoppable. Open borders libertarians active at that time will scratch their heads and claim not to understand why their promotion of free markets is having so little success. Everybody else will know the answer. To me, that is beautifully written because I used to be diehard open borders libertarian, and it really was because I just was thinking in terms of economics. But I've been reading the John Birch Society stuff more, and one of the books I've been reading is International Merger by Foreign Entanglements. And this book talks about a lot of like the trade agreements and stuff that the US goes into with all these other countries. And the claim is that by going to these agreements, we're strengthening each other's economies and making the free market more free. It's very far from the truth. And there's a lot of things in these free trade agreements that have nothing to do with economics or financials, and actually allows, things like the UN to supersede our Constitution. And one, that's really bad because that means we can go into an agreement with almost any country and they can alter our laws. Like one of the examples was China was actually over here studying our riot police and getting our gear, military gear, and stuff like that way ahead of time before us. And it was all because of these agreements that allowed them to come in and do that. But going further than that, just speaking about borders on its own and culture on its own, I've realized that my culture is going away because there's less people like me around, while there's more and more people coming in here into this country, into this specific state of Texas, that don't represent this culture at all.
Californians.
Yeah, well, Californians, but also, I mean, Afghans and Haitians. And
is there any surprise that the government funded all the refugees into a purple state? Like it's we know demographics can change. That's the entire free state program over there. Demographic change for democracy. And we hate democracy. We should hate that change too.
Well, yeah, and that's what they're doing. That's why they're bringing the Haitians and the Afghans into Texas, is because they want less people like me here in Texas to vote red or keep the state free and conservative. They want people to come in and vote in big government and vote in power. That's why they love immigration. None of these immigrants, well, not none, of course, there are people that come here and they appreciate America for what it is and they are happy to be here. But many of these immigrants bring crime, and they bring cultures that are very counterculture to us. Like, for example, I think it happened earlier this year. A man from Mexico, living in the U.S., he was having sex with a 12-year-old Mexican girl, and all the whole Mexican family and community thought it was normal because that happens all the time in Mexico. Well, he's punished and going to prison for it in the U.S. because we don't do that crap here, and for good reason. It's wrong. And there at the time there were leftists clamoring about, well, it's racist and it's insensitive to their culture, and I don't give a fuck, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but it's insensitive to my culture, and this is my home. This is my land. And Rothbard and Hoppe, in my opinion, make the best points. I'm sorry, Rockwell and Hoppe make the best points about this. Rothbard too, of course.
Nathan by consent.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's nothing about libertarianism or a free society that says I'm not allowed to do what I have to keep my culture, to keep my homeland the way it is, to keep my people going the way they are. There's nothing libertarian that says that. And also, just because I want to do those things does not mean I have to use force or I have to be violent.
Yeah.
If I own the property, why should I let you on it? And if it's the American people's homeland, why should we let you into it?
Yeah.
And again, going back to the open borders argument, none of that really does anything to discredit the open borders argument totally. But if the people who are open borders want a libertarian society, they're not going to get it that way.
Yeah.
And they're going to lose more that way. So even if your goal is open borders, I would say that should be one of the last dominoes to fall.
Absolutely.
Because once we make the federal government less powerful, it won't be as much of an issue because the immigration won't be incentivized. And
once the honeypot of welfare was gone.
Yeah, exactly. They won't have to suck off the tit of welfare. And so then it won't be an issue. They won't get their power. They will kind of be forced by circumstance to assimilate, which is good. I don't care what anyone thinks. So yeah, I mean, he really, in my opinion, and that's actually a speech. It's from a lecture from like 2015 or 16 that you can find on YouTube. But that's one of Rockwell's best pieces of work, in my opinion, his chapter on immigration.
No, it is great. It is I went from conservative to libertarians. I was only open borders for about maybe a month before I'm like, oh, cool, I can be a closed border libertarian guy like Rockwell. So I never really was an open borders person. But my problem with a lot of open borders arguments they make is it's only about economics. They don't look at any other aspect. Mises did that because he was an economist. He only cared about that.
Yeah.
But you have to look at everything else when it comes to immigration, and that's why I think Harper, Rothbard, and the paleo right wing people who get this, and the ones who don't, it's frustrating because they're not wrong economically speaking, but they're only looking at one aspect of immigration.
Yeah. And well, that's another thing going back to our conversation about libertarians and not being normal is a lot of them just focus on things like civil rights or economics, and there's a whole lot more to factor in and take account of if you want to be taken seriously or also have a serious outlook on things.
Absolutely. I don't have anything else to add to the immigration chapter. Do you have anything you want to add to immigration?
No, I mean I pretty much got it all out in that little spiel there.
Yeah, it was a great spiel. I might actually clip that to a different sort and put it out.
Sweet, thank you.
It's a good sort. Oh, environmentalism. This is one of my favorite chapters. This is the opening part here. I'm gonna have to just read this for everybody listening because this opening part about it's the most boomer yells at sky ever, but it's also
Yeah,
like awesome. And this is the part my dad heard, and he was like, "I love this guy." Okay.
where he says I am a sinner.
Mm-hmm. I am a sinner but unrepentant. You see, I don't practice environmentalism and I don't believe in it. I don't recycle and I don't conserve, except when it pays to do so. I like clean air, really clean air. It kind of comes from an air conditioner. I like the bug-free indoors. I like development, as in buildings, concrete, capitalism, prosperity. I don't like swamps, and that goes for the wetlands and the barley-hooded everglades or jungles, rainforests. I see animals, except dogs and cats, as likely carriers of disease unless they're in a zoo. When PBS runs a special on animal intelligence, I am unmoved. I am glad for the dolphin they can squeak. I'm happy for the ape that they can sign for their food. How it's charming for the bees that they organize themselves so well for work. But it doesn't give them rights over me. The only real value comes from what they can do for me, can do for man. That is not only a fantastic chapter opening, but he's absolutely right. And Augustine talked about that a lot. And honestly, the objectivist, old school St. Augustine side Catholic, and Rockwell get this. Environmentalism. Thomas de Lorenzo got the environmental people absolutely correct when he called them watermelons, green on the outside, red on the inside for being
Yeah.
communist. God, I love Thomas de Lorenzo. But yeah, the environmentalism is also again an unattainable goal. China is going to always outproduce us and CO2 and everything else like that. So why even bother? We're going to cripple our economy for nothing. It doesn't help. It's so stupid. The environmentalism.
Now, I wouldn't, yeah. I mean, I agree with you in the grand scheme of it all that the environmentalists are dumb and the whole idea behind it all is dumb. Now, this is actually the one area I probably disagree with Rockwell the most. And it's not, I mean, actually, I agree with pretty much everything he says in the chapter. My problem is going back to what I just said about being short sighted on things, libertarians just look at economics or look at this. I think this is an issue he's being a little short sighted on because I think it doesn't. I think we don't need to force environmentalism. We don't need to force people to pick up trash. We don't need to force any of that. But when the incentive is there, that's good because obviously people will have an incentive to pick up trash. But I think there should be a natural incentive there. Especially as I'm a Christian. And I'm very, very appreciative of the earth because I think it's just beautiful. And I think it's all amazing because to me, this is proof enough of God. You just look around and no scientist can explain why the world looks the way it does and why mountains are the way they are and stuff like that. So whenever we kind of, in my opinion, disrespect the earth by trashing it and stuff or polluting and all that, is kind of, in my opinion, spitting on a gift from God. Now, I don't think Rockwell's doing that. No, I think Rockwell would probably actually agree with what I said there. I just think he missed a really important thing he could have factored in there in that chapter. And but he's totally right. He is totally right about how, and De Lorenzo is actually totally right with the watermelon analogy because that is what it is.
Mhm.
it sounds all nice and fruity
It's another
that
unattainable goal.
yeah, that we're gonna save the earth. We can't save the earth, and it's funny.
Mhm,
I mean, I know people point it out all the time, but it's worth stressing. The people that are in power that are saying we're gonna save the earth are using jets to go to these conferences to
mhm,
talk about saving the earth, and then their companies and their government agencies are the biggest polluters, and yet they
mhm.
want to save the earth. Give me a
And they
break.
and they also claim that it's already too late.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like,
It's way
we can
too
do
late, but we're
everything,
gonna
and it's
do it.
already too late. It's
And
like,
it's always
what?
another thing, it's 2 years away, and then it's 6 years away, and then it's 1 year away, and then
Dude, I really wanna do a live reaction to Al Gore's documentary about the Earth being destroyed in 2002. Like, I wanna do a live reaction to that because I haven't seen it yet, but I'm like, "Oh, yeah,
I
the Earth
didn't
is
even
gonna be
know about
destroyed."
that.
Yeah,
I
he
didn't
did a
even know about that.
documentary. He did, like, a movie. He won an Oscar, I think, for it, some award about how the
Shit.
Earth is gonna be destroyed, and no one talks about it anymore because he got everything wrong.
Is
Because
that
the Earth is
where
still here.
is that where he says super cereal and South Park makes fun of him for it?
He might have said that in that one, I'm not sure. There's so
Okay.
much to make fun of Al Gore for.
Yeah, there
Um,
is. There's plenty.
and I agree with you, like, I'm all for conserving natural beauty,
Yeah.
but I don't see I live in Florida. These wetlands ain't beautiful. Destroy them. Like, there's no
Yeah.
reason to have them. And mosquitoes, God didn't make mosquitoes, he never did. There's nothing to say about those bloodsuckers. So maybe in Florida, a few places like I can see like Grand Canyon, there's a few natural beautiful places, keep those around. But the
Oh,
ugly
yeah.
ones, like the Everglades, fuck destroy them. I'm done.
I get it totally. I'm from New Mexico, so I'm surrounded by the desert. I wouldn't mind
Ooh.
seeing some things be built on that dry
Yeah.
land.
Did you see China, like they put out the video of China, they built these giant solar farms for the solar powered stuff, and they just absolutely destroyed the entire environment there just
I
to build
didn't
these
know
things.
that. I saw pictures of it. I didn't know what it did though. That's
Yeah, they
makes
just
sense.
disband they burnt down like a huge part of beautiful forest just to build those. It's like, yep, environmentalism, destroying the forest for the forest.
Which
It's
sucks because you could have put those panels almost anywhere, but you had to
yeah,
destroy some
yeah.
trees.
Honestly, when it comes to China doing China's it's fun to watch China because they're not going to succeed. They're going downhill fast. They're defaulting on debts, and they keep trying to do all these things as propaganda on TikTok and everything else. Like the amount of times you see someone like a pro-Chinese person do a YouTube video about like, why do you guys have racism or guns? Or, like, how much did the Chinese government force you to do this? Like the amount of Chinese propaganda that's out there is insane. And from both
Yeah.
sides, how great China is and how evil China is. And the reality is, no, it's just going downhill fast.
Yep. It's a house of cards.
Absolutely. Let's see, environmentalism. There's a quote here from Augustine I wanted to read. How glorious St. Augustine also wrote to see human habitation spreading where once unchecked nature resigned. That's my view too. I don't know how many homilies I hear from the glories of nature, from the pulpit or Congress or the media. I'm against it. Unless it has been changed by man to something useful, otherwise valuable. Things that grow for food, clothing, decoration, or lawns are all swamps should be drained, all rainforests turned over to productive agriculture. I'm with them on the swamps. I'm not on the rainforest, but the swamp one, yeah, destroy those. Those are done. Oh, this is funny. Not being a do it myself, but my favorite section of the hardware store features bug killers, weed killers, and vermin traps, and
Yeah, I
poison
like
of all
that part a lot
sorts.
too.
I guess
These
his point
killer
about how. Go ahead.
I like this line. These killer potions represent high civilization and capitalism.
I know I have a friend who's basically a commie. He's a positive. He calls himself a libertarian, but he's a positive right communist. He would absolutely hate this book, and I'm tempted to buy it for him as a gift.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Uh, it's the point here about DDT that they had to get rid of it because it was too harmful, but led to increase in malaria and bug-borne diseases. It's a fantastic point of government getting in the way of, like, the FDA does the same thing, getting in the way of actually effective things, causing more harm down the line. It's again, people, it's free online. It's only like $9 to buy. Fucking read it. Okay, I have nothing more to add on environmentalism. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, but I was gonna suggest because I think we kind of. I mean, do you have anything to say about the economic egalitarianism? I feel like we kind of covered that in the civil rights part.
Pretty much. We've been kind of covered. best parts of that chapter we've kind of covered was like the unattainable goals. I will
Yeah,
say I wanted to say something about Walls. What's his name? The guy. What's his name? Zon Walls. The
John Rawls.
egalitarian. Yeah, I want to say a
Yeah,
little bit about him. His whole point of like the theory of justice and how you would want a if you didn't know where your place is going to be when you were born to a new society, you would want it to be egalitarian. But we can allow inequality that helps the poor. Like this guy really is. He's interesting, but at the same time, it's like his. I don't know. The egalitarian is part of it. Really bugs me. Like this whole like, well, we can allow inequality only for the poor's sake, and we also the family could be left alone. Like he very meekly defended the family. It's just again, people don't know who he is, but he should be reticent because his ideas have kind of been. He's one of those characters who infected the movement, but no one knows who he is. And so I think he's definitely worth looking into if you want to understand the left better.
sounds kind of like a Brzezinski from the Jimmy Carter administration. No one really realizes how much of an effect that guy had on our federal government.
Yeah, yeah. It's those people, those characters in history are very interesting to me. The ones who like create all the arguments that got circulated in movements, but no
Yeah,
one really knows where they originated from because those are the
same,
most interesting characters.
same here. So you want to just go on to left libertarianism now? The
Absolutely.
last chapter, yeah.
Yeah, I have a line from here I want to read. It's at the very end, but it's this is fantastic. Let me see if I can find it. Whether it's a claim that self-defense laws are racist, that Bitcoin is racist, or that libertarians ought to throw off white privilege, all of which have been advanced by libertarians claiming to have moved beyond all legislative fixation to non-aggressive principle, the various forms of sick libertarianism are confusing the core teachings of what we believe. None of these concerns have the slightest bit to do with libertarianism. All the additional claims are a distraction from the central principle. If you oppose the initiation of physical force, you're a libertarian. Period. How hard was that?
I mean, yeah, that's again, left libertarians and specifically cloud their mind with all these ideas of things like racism, equality, and such, or even they don't believe in property rights. So I guess their idea of property, they cloud their minds with these ideas and think I'm right, therefore everyone should follow what I believe. Whereas I wish left libertarians would just be okay with the fact of like accepting the fact that we do property rights. So because if a left libertarian bought up some land and privately owned some land, as ironic that as that is, they could build their commune. They could make all their leftist rules. They could make land within that land that belongs to people that are on that commune, and they can do whatever the hell they want. But left libertarians get caught up in all this BS that they kind of never get anything done. They don't ever put anything out of any substance, and the things they do put out are pointless. It's just
Yeah,
it's all virtue signaling, and it's sad because there are some brilliant minds in the left libertarian sphere that get overshadowed by all these idiots that are in that same sphere.
absolutely. I don't know how many people I know who said they won't read Conkin because he identified as a left libertarian. It's like Conkin is
See,
definitely worth reading.
yeah, and he's not, in my opinion, at least, he's not left. I mean, even
No,
if he
I don't view him
identified
as that way
himself
either.
as that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you read like my favorite people are Conkin and Hopper. Those are my favorite people to read. And the fact that those groups supposedly have all this infighting against each other, but like in
Yeah.
reality, the only way we're going to win is algorithm and what must be done by Hopper.
And yeah,
So
what's
it's
funny is you bring that up. I was talking to Jose Gallison on his podcast, and we talked about how agorists and Hoppians oppose each other. And it's just kind of like, why? I mean, I'm with you. Like, agorism has a pretty good strategy. Now, I agree with the Hoppians that you can't take agorism to its full extent if you really want to be realistic about things. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like Hoppians are just a little apathetic about it, kind of like hold a grudge against it, and I don't understand why. Like Lou Rockwell even has some writings from Conkin in his archives, I believe, because I think it was Center for Stateless Society put out some kind of article earlier this year where they want to get a compilation of all of Conkin's writings. And they made some stupid remark at the end about how unfortunate it is some of these writings have to come from Lou Rockwell's archives. Give me a fucking break. But yeah, I mean that's just one example of how left libertarians bitch about nothing. You're getting all
Yeah.
the man's writings. Who cares who it comes from?
Yeah. Like my point with left libertarians is how do I put this? They want the same. They have the same goals as the left. They want egalitarian. They want equality. They think the only way to achieve that is through getting rid of the state because the state causes all the inequality. If you're a leftist and you want want all the same goals, why would you vote for the Libertarian Party, which has a zero track record of achieving anything, when you can get all the same goals of a party that has succeeded in the Democrats?
Yeah,
Like
and
who are you messaging to?
also whatever why is it that these left libertarians are so opposed to the idea of infiltration? I would love it if left libertarians were infiltrating the Democratic Party the way
Mm-hmm.
paleo libertarians are now doing to the Republican Party. It
Yeah.
would make our movement, it'd put us in a whole lot better of a
Mm-hmm.
standings.
Yeah.
I don't get why they're so opposed to that. It's like they think so purely that they can't, in their own minds, think little, I don't know, like Vladimir Lenin or Machiavelli and
Mm.
get things done. I don't get what's so
Yeah.
bad about that. I mean, you don't
Because
have
they're
to
not
go
smart.
out. Yeah,
It's
you don't
because they're not
have.
smart.
Yeah, you don't have to go out of your way to hurt anyone. You just
Mm-hmm.
there comes a time when you got to get things done, and there's some good strategies they can use, but they want to be caught up in their BS, and that's why
Yeah.
I don't write off all left libertarians. I give each one a chance, but
Mm.
I definitely don't go out of my way to try and talk to them or associate with them anymore.
I am much more like Jared at In Democracy from Hoppy.org. I
Yeah,
block on site. I have
no,
an
I'm with
account.
you.
I don't want to get destroyed. I block on site.
If I see them interacting with someone else and they're being a bitch, then yeah, you're getting blocked. But
Absolutely.
until someone fucks with me, you're cool. I'm not gonna block you, but no,
That's fair.
I love Jared. That guy's awesome.
He's great. He's gonna be part. Oh, I'll put it right now. Your idea. This
Oh yeah,
December we're doing a Lou Rockwell respect stream. It's gonna have Stratty, Buck Johnson, Zed from In Democracy, Kinsey Puff, and I cannot remember the other dude's name. Hold on.
Colton.
I think that's his name. Yeah. Hold on. I want to make sure I plug everybody correctly. Taylor.
Oh, sorry.
Siren. Yeah, he's gonna be on too. We're gonna have there's a Lou Rockwell respect stream to counter that bullshit fakeitarian. Have you try? I actually tried to watch the Lou Rockwell Christmas and fakeitarians. I made it 2 minutes before. I'm like, God, all you people are insufferable.
Yeah, I didn't even try to watch because I knew it was gonna be really stupid and not worth my time.
Yeah. I honestly, one thing I do want to do is I actually want to read the his review of Mighty Ducks 2 because I've read it. It's pretty good. Like, oh, his big plate is he pointed out forced tokenization and like when Mighty Ducks 2 came out, he pointed out tokenization in movies.
Yeah,
That's your big argument against him. He got it right. Come on.
which is a good. Yeah, I was about to say that's right. Tokenization is stupid.
Yeah.
But are you fitting to close out?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick about this book in total. Like we said at the beginning, anyone could read this book and get an idea for what the left is and how it's evil. But one thing I really appreciate that Rockwell does is he uses sources and quotes from Rothbard and Mises and Hans Hoppe, which are great men to learn from. He uses historical examples. For instance, when he's talking about the civil rights chapter, he uses a letter from a hotel back in like 1917 where they instructed their people hiring employees to only hire people with a good attitude, and he talks about how it made that business go good and created a good culture in America. And he uses examples like that. He even talks about procedures like I think it's in the same civil rights chapter. He talks about the procedures that businesses have to go through complying with these ridiculous laws. So he really breaks it down in such a way that anyone can understand. He's easy to read. Anyone can read his stuff and learn a lot. He's not too aggressive. He's not too scholarly. There's plenty of things that can make you laugh when you read them too. But especially right wingers need to read this book because if you don't if you're not an anti-leftist already, you need to be, and this book will do that for you.
I put out a tweet the other day, and it was if I had to sum my politics in one word, it's in one sentence, it's against the left.
Yeah,
That's it. That's
that's
my
a good
politics
one.
at this point. I have one more question for you before
What's
we
up?
wrap up. There's a lot of right wingers right now. Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Jordan Peterson, Matt Walsh. What's one you think would the most influence if they read Against the Left?
I honestly don't.
I try to figure out too. I was thinking maybe Matt Walsh, but I don't know.
Maybe Matt Walsh. I don't really like him, but I think if he read some of our stuff, he might get better. Shapiro, no, I think he's a lost cause.
I think it's a grifter.
Yeah, he is. I'm trying to think. Like, hold on, give me 1 sec. I'm gonna think if there's anyone out there that I think we could give one of these books to, and that it would actually put him on the right path. I think if we gave this book to Tulsi Gabbard, she would full on be running as a Republican next time around. If she ever runs again, I hope she does. I love that lady. But no, I think, but a lot of, piggybacking off your question there, a lot of people write off education these days as being dumb. And I get it. Education isn't going to do it all. Education is not going to give us our rights back. But education makes people understand why our rights matter. So if you're looking for a great gift for a friend and you want them to be more liberty-minded, get them a book like this or anything by Lou Rockwell, or hell, text me on Twitter at Stratty. I can make a bunch of recommendations, but get your friends books, get your family books, or don't even get them books. Send them videos, send them little articles. Just start talking about these things. Yeah, start talking about these things. Start educating one another because it does matter. We need info, especially in this age of misinformation and disinformation coming from the fact checkers.
This is why I think we're going to win. Like, we live in the age of information, and who has more information and more answers to questions in the Media Institute?
Yeah.
It's like we have the answers, so I think that's why we're going to win. My answer to that question would be, I think Michael Knowles read this. Or
I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's Catholic, but he's a tradcon. He's a traditional conservative, wants to mandate everything. And he hates the left, and he says him and Sola Amari, they say all the right complaints, but they have zero solutions. And I think if they read someone like this book, they would be able to articulate better why the left sucks, what their actual goals are. Because I still watch a lot of right-wing media to try to see what's going on in those circles. They have all the right complaints, but they never know why they're complaining against these things besides, or what goes against my traditional values. This book gives you the answers for why these things suck. And so, just again, fantastic book. It took me this long to read it. So I read it sooner. Well, going for an hour and 12 minutes. So I didn't give you plugs. Where can people find you at?
You can follow me on Twitter at Stratty, and then you can follow me on Instagram at societal_scope.
Sounds good. Have you found a place, your article? I want to read it. Have you found a place to publish it yet? Or
not yet, but Jose Gallison gave me the idea to create a Substack. I'm probably going to do that tonight because I am not doing anything else. So I'll probably create a Substack, publish everything else that I've written before that first, and then publish that last.
Nice. Well, when you have the Substack, send me a link. I'll add it to the description.
Dope. Sounds good.
Sounds good. Well, everybody, it's been another episode of Face, Liberty, and Praxis. Go read more books and be against the left.